Hey there, Venkat. Welcome to your Ultimate Exam Prep Explainer. I am so pumped you're here today. Look, as your teacher, my #1 goal right now is to make absolutely sure you master every single detail of the 7th Standard Social Science chapter on our living world. We're going to walk through Earth's natural and human spheres together, and I promise you, by the time we wrap this up, you're going to be completely ready to just crush this exam. We are not skipping a single detail from your textbook, but we're going to make it all incredibly easy to remember. Sound good? Let's get started.
So grab your notebook, because here's our game plan for today. First, we'll be decoding our amazing environment. Second, natural versus human-made elements. Third, the rocky lithosphere. Fourth, the hydrosphere and atmosphere. And finally, we'll wrap up with a living biosphere.
All right, Section 1, decoding our amazing environment. Okay, let's dive right into the very first core concept of this chapter. To really get geography, we have to start with the environment, because it's literally the foundation of everything we're studying. So jot this down, Venkat, because this is a massive exam memory hook. The term environment refers to all the external conditions in which an organism lives. But here's the secret trick to remembering it for your test. It actually comes from the French word environ. And you know what that means? It means to surround. So when your exam asks what makes up the environment, I want you to just think about everything that surrounds you. That's places, things, people, nature, and yep, even all the stuff built by humans. It is the total sum of conditions that make Earth our home. Now picture this in your head like a giant Venn diagram. Imagine 3 circles overlapping to create our total environment. In that first circle, or column, we've got the abiotic environment. Those are the non-living natural things, stuff like air, water, and soil. In the second, we have the human environment. That's what we build and do, like agriculture and industries. And in the third, the biotic environment, the living natural components, which means plants and animals. Geography is basically the study of all these pieces and exactly how we humans interact with them.
Moving right along to Section 2, natural versus human-made elements.
So, categorizing everything we just talked about into 2 separate groups based on where they come from, that perfectly sets up a classic compare and contrast question for your exam. On one side, you have natural elements. These are totally created by nature and include both biotic and abiotic things. Think mountains, rivers, vegetation, animals. Basically, your natural environment. On the flip side, we have human-made elements. These are built by us, specifically so we can live comfortably. We're talking agriculture, industries, settlements, transport. If you can clearly contrast these 2 on test day, you are golden.
Okay, Venkat, listen closely because this next quote is the core thesis of your entire chapter. Any change in the natural environment causes variations in the human environment and vice versa. It's a 2-way street. These environments are constantly interacting and shifting. Thanks to natural processes and human activities, landforms get completely modified, we see shifts in climate across seasons, and literally every single day certain species go extinct while new ones evolve. Even human evolution happened because of changes in our environment. It's all connected.
All right, Section 3, the rocky lithosphere.
Now that we've got a handle on the broad environment, it's time to zoom in on the 4 major domains of the Earth. Let's start with the literal ground we're walking on, the lithosphere. The absolutely critical root word you need to memorize here is litho. Litho means rocky. So lithosphere literally translates to rocky crust. It's the rocky outermost layer of the Earth, made up of the crust and the upper part of the mantle. And it's not perfectly smooth. It's this irregular sphere that covers our huge continents, but also stretches way down across the deep ocean floors, giving us mountains, plateaus, plains, and valleys.
Treat this number like a flashcard, Venkat. 100. 100 kilometers is the average thickness of the lithosphere. Seriously, burn that number in your brain. This 100-kilometer thick layer is packed with solid rocks and minerals, and the very, very top part of it forms that thin layer of soil we see around us every day. So why do we even care about the lithosphere? Well, without it, our human-made environment wouldn't exist. It gives us the solid land we need to build our houses, our roads, our factories. It provides the soil for all our agriculture. Plus, since it's packed with rocks and minerals, it's this massive source of power and raw materials that keeps human civilization actually running.
The crucial takeaway here is that our environment is incredibly precious, and to spread awareness about that, Earth Day is celebrated all over the world every single year on the 22nd of April. Jot that down, April 22nd.
Section 4, the hydrosphere and atmosphere. So, we've covered the rocky crust. Now, let's look at the watery zones and the envelope of air surrounding it. Enter the hydrosphere. This domain is all the water present on the Earth's surface. Oceans, seas, bays, lakes, rivers, you name it. But here is a trick question examiners love to use, Venkat, so pay attention. It also includes the water hidden below the surface, which we call groundwater. Don't forget that part. This amazing watery domain supports absolutely all forms of life. And thanks to the water cycle, fresh water is continually delivered right to us on land.
All right, rapid fire time for your notes, because this is highly likely to pop up on the test. Water in the hydrosphere exists in 3 different states. 1, solid, like ice. 2, liquid, as water. And 3, gaseous, as water vapor. Make sure you can list all 3 of those perfectly. Look who's back, the number 22. I'm pointing this out because your textbook actually drops this fact twice in the same chapter. And you know what it means when a textbook repeats a fact, right? It means the examiner definitely wants you to know it. Earth Day, April 22nd. Don't forget it. Moving up from the water, we hit the atmosphere. This is the envelope of air surrounding our Earth. Now, this is pretty wild. Unlike the lithosphere, which we know is about 100 kilometers thick, the exact thickness of the atmosphere is actually unknown. What we do know is that it's held tightly to the Earth by the massive force of gravity. If we didn't have this invisible, gravity-held envelope, Earth would just be a barren rock floating in space, just like the other planets. If a question pops up asking why the atmosphere is important, here is your perfect multi-point answer. First, it holds life-giving oxygen for us humans and animals, and carbon dioxide for plants. Second, it's basically a giant shield blocking the sun's harmful rays from cooking the Earth's surface. Third, it acts like a thermal blanket, controlling the crazy extremes of hot and cold between day and night. And fourth, it literally drives all our weather and climate changes.
Section 5, the living biosphere. And here we are, the 5th and final section. This is the most vibrant domain, the grand finale, where all the spheres we just talked about crash together to create absolute magic. Welcome to the biosphere. It's this incredibly narrow zone where the lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere meet and interact. It contains the entire plant and animal kingdom. And hey, here's another great example of how word origins help you remember things. The word biosphere comes from the Greek word bios, meaning life, and the Latin word sphera, meaning the total range. It is literally the total range of life. That's why we call it the living world. Commit bios and sphera to memory for that exam.
Now, the biosphere might be a tiny, narrow zone compared to the size of the whole Earth, but just look at this number, 15 lakh. It's estimated that around 15 lakh different species of organisms live right here in the biosphere. And the biosphere provides the nutrients and resources to keep every single one of those species alive. That's why this particular domain is so profoundly critical. So Venkat, I want to leave you with a thought to chew on. If this tiny, narrow biosphere provides life-giving nutrients to 15 lakh different species, how can we better protect the incredibly delicate balance of the lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere that support it? Really think about how human actions impact that balance. Listen, you have got this material down cold now. I know you're going to be absolutely brilliant on your exam. If this class helped you out, do me a favor and share this explainer with all your friends so you guys can listen, study, and ace this test together. Good luck and keep learning. Hey Venkat, I'm so excited to guide you through this explainer today. I know you've got your 7th standard social science exam coming up, so listen closely. I'm going to be your personal masterclass teacher right now, and we're going to make absolutely sure you know every single detail of this chapter so you can completely ace that test. We're diving into the dynamics of the ecosystem and human environment interaction, and I promise by the time we're done, you're going to have the whole thing memorized. Here's our game plan. We'll start by understanding our environment, then break down the 4 Earth domains and explore ecosystems. After that, we'll look at the evolution of human needs, our impact on the planet, and finally, how we can maintain balance. Let's jump right in.
First up, understanding our environment.
Okay, grab your favorite pen, Venkat, because this is definitely going to be on the test. The environment is basically all the external conditions in which an organism lives. It's everything, places, things, people, nature. But here's a great piece of trivia they absolutely love to test you on. The word environment actually comes from the French word environner. And what does that mean? It means to surround. So write that down. French origin environner means to surround.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the contrast, because geography is essentially the study of how these 2 distinct worlds interact. On one side, we've got natural elements. These are created by nature, and they include biotic components, like living plants and animals, and abiotic components,
which are non-living things like air, water, and soil. On the flip side, we have human-made elements. These are the things we've built to live comfortably, like agriculture, industries, transport, and our settlements. Always remember this core idea. A raw piece of land, that's natural, but the roads and towns we build on it, those are human-made.
Moving right along, let's talk about the 4 Earth domains.
Domain number 1 is the lithosphere. The term literally translates to rocky crust. This includes the Earth's crust and the upper part of the mantle, and it stretches across continents and ocean basins. It is absolutely crucial for human progress. Why? Because it provides the very ground we use to build our houses, our roads, our factories. It gives us the soil we need for farming, and it's our primary source of vital minerals and power.
Now, lock this number into your brain right now, 100. 100 kilometers is the average thickness of this rocky lithosphere. If you get a fill-in-the-blank question asking for the lithosphere's average thickness, you can confidently just write 100 kilometers.
So what about the other 3 domains? Well, first is the hydrosphere, which is all the water on Earth's surface plus the groundwater. The key thing to remember for the exam is that fresh water is made available on land through the water cycle. Next up, the atmosphere. This is the invisible envelope of air surrounding us, and it's literally held to the Earth by gravity. It gives us oxygen, gives plants carbon dioxide, and honestly, without it, Earth would be completely barren. It shields us from harmful solar rays and keeps temperatures from getting too extreme. Finally, we have the biosphere. The word bios is Greek for life. This is that narrow, magical zone where the other 3 domains meet and interact. And get this, even though it's a really small zone, it holds around 15 lakh different species. The biggest takeaway here is how they all constantly work together to make life possible.
All right, let's zoom in a bit to ecosystems and interconnected life.
Here's your next major definition to memorize. An ecosystem is this highly complex system of interactions between living organisms, like plants and animals, and their physical environment in a specific area. Now, ecosystems can be massively different in size. You could have an ecosystem as huge as a tropical rainforest or a vast desert, or it could be as tiny as a local pond right in your neighborhood filled with fish, frogs, and water lilies. The most important thing to know is that an ecosystem supports life by providing food, nutrients, and a space for species to interact with each other and their surroundings.
I put these exact sets of examples together just for you, Venkat. If you have a short answer section on your test, just remember these perfect sets of 3. For biotic components, plants, animals, and humans. For abiotic components, air, water, and soil. For natural ecosystems, ponds, lakes, and grasslands. And finally, for primary activities, agriculture, fishing, and animal husbandry. Pay special attention to that last one, because those primary activities produce the food and raw materials that human societies literally need to survive and move forward.
I can almost guarantee you're going to see a question like this on your exam. Why do plant and animals depend on each other? And when you see it, don't panic. Just write this down. They depend on each other for food, oxygen, carbon dioxide, shelter, and survival. They are totally interconnected pieces of a puzzle, each providing exactly what the other needs to stay alive.
Next up on the study guide, the evolution of human needs.
Think about early humans for a second. They just adjusted to their surroundings. Whatever basic resources nature provided, that was enough. But over time, our needs shifted completely, both in quality and quantity. We started settling down in the fertile plains of river valleys to farm. We domesticated animals. We figured out how to use fire. Then game changers, like the invention of the wheel, allowed us to produce extra food and start trading. Eventually, we began processing raw materials, which led all the way to the Industrial Revolution in Europe, allowing us to mass-produce goods. We literally changed the scale of our needs and started modifying the environment to fit us, rather than the other way around.
Which brings us to a really critical topic: human impact and pollution.
You absolutely need to know this term for the test: urbanization. This is the growth and expansion of towns and cities because of increasing population and development. It's a massive driver of environmental change, Venkat, because as our cities get bigger and bigger, we end up exploiting nature and totally disrupting that natural balance we talked about. When human disturbances are small, nature can easily repair itself. It just bounces back. But when exploitation happens on a massive scale, nature just can't keep up. That leads to severe environmental pollution, which your textbook calls the contamination of the environment by harmful substances or human activities. If you were asked to list the main causes, here are the 4 you must write down: overpopulation, urbanization, industrialization, and the unwise use of technology. But here's the inspiring part.
People actually do fight back. This historical event is super important for your test. In 1973, villagers in the Alaknanda River Valley of Uttarakhand decided they'd had enough of people indiscriminately cutting down their forests. So how did they protest? They literally hugged the trees to save them from the axis. It spread like wildfire and became world famous as the Chipko movement. Remember the details? 1973, Uttarakhand, and saving forests by hugging trees. All right, let's wrap this up with our final section, maintaining environmental balance.
If your exam throws you the question, how can the natural environment be managed properly? This 4-step process is the ultimate answer key. Scientists and technologists agree we've got to do these 4 things. First, use our natural resources wisely, conserve them. Second, strictly control and reduce pollution. Third, promote afforestation, which simply means planting new forests. And fourth, maintain a perfect, harmonious balance between what we humans do and the natural environment. Here's one last golden nugget of trivia for you. To spread awareness about all these issues, the entire world celebrates Earth Day every single year on April 22nd. Put a big star next to that in your notes, April 22nd. So I want to leave you with this thought. What happens when our technology completely outpaces our ability to maintain balance with nature? It's kind of a scary thought, right? Maintaining that perfect harmony isn't just a good idea, it's absolutely required for our survival. Think deeply about that. Well, Venkat, class is officially dismissed. You are 100% prepared to ace this 7th standard social science exam. You've got the definitions, the numbers, the causes, and the solutions down cold. Hey, make sure you share this explainer with all your friends and classmates so you can all listen, study, and get those top marks together. Stay curious, buddy, and good luck on the test.